What up, Envoys? Today I have a very cool build for you guys in anticipation for Koumei's new augment coming with Techrot Enchore. I have a Koumei build. And as always, we are going to start with the Archon Shards. This is a very unique setup from what I normally do, as I actually haven't ever used purple Archon Shards before. Uh, the first two are going to be plus 15% ability damage on enemies affected by electricity status. We'll get into that, how you can proc this. It's two of them. The next one is a single equilibrium purple Archon shard. This helps out with the energy hungriness of this build, as if you don't have this, you're probably going to run out of energy pretty fast. The next one is a casting speed shard. This really helps the build out, especially when you're trying to cast your 1 and your 4 a lot, which you will be. The final one is more of a flex one. You could put another equilibrium here if you feel like you're having energy problems still. I put this one, the emerald one, in here to give roughly, I think it's about 98% armor reduction whenever you do corrosive. Truthfully, in my opinion, this hasn't worked out very well. I'm probably just going to put another equilibrium shard in here, but you can test it out if you want. It's mostly here to do level cap stuff. Moving on to the build itself, we are going to be running a mecha empowered setup, part mecha empowered setup. The first is the Oramon mecha empowered. For most people, you should know what this does. If you don't like the mecha empowered set, or you're about to go into level cap, I would highly recommend you switch this out for brief respite and mecha pulse for transient fortitude or umbral intensify or whatever you feel like. This is more of a flex slot if you don't feel like using the mecha set. Archon Flow, Archon Stretch, Archon Vitality, and Archon Continuity, all here for the sheer fact that you can produce all of these statuses with relative ease. They're constantly proccing, and having Archon Flow and Stretch constantly giving you energy, absolutely helpful. Adaptation is here just for some extra defenses. Blind Rage for ability strength. The ability efficiency will not matter, and I will get to that in a second. Argu reaches here until the augment comes out. That augment, if you don't know, what it'll do is it'll make Omikuji. Its cooldown will be reduced every time you kill an enemy affected by your passive, and your passive is every 60 seconds. One of Koumei's weapons will inflict random status effects for 60 seconds. This, if it is anything like over 3 seconds, or heck, even if it's a 1 second, if you're constantly killing enemies with your guns, it's going to be insane. I love this ability, but the fact that the more you use it, the longer the cooldown is, makes me want to tear my eyes out, truthfully. Uh, we are also using Arcane Impetus. Unique status effects from abilities grant 6% ability strength and 3% ability efficiency for 20 seconds. This is constantly up. Once you press your 4, you will get max stacks of this, and your 1 and your 4 will constantly refresh the duration, so you constantly stay at max stacks. On top of that, we have Molt Augmented for the additional 60% strength. With all this strength and whatnot, we are using Breach Surge for the damage multiplier and the blind duration. So if they're, for whatever reason, immune to Bunraku's strings, uh, that uh, that basically hold them in place, you can always blind them with Breach Surge. On top of that, the damage multiplier with all the strength you get is around 9.6 times, I think it is. I would have to double check that. Uh, which would help Bunraku do a metric fuck ton of damage. Uh, Not to mention the status effects will just like destroy enemy health. And you still have your Omamori for healing. People hate on this. I actually like it. Like the even though you have to roll to get the invulnerability, it's still pretty good. Like I have yet to die while using this, so I don't know what people's problems is. Moving on to the primary, we are using the Dera Vandal, the Incarnon. The first evolution is plus 5% fire rate for 5 seconds, stacks up to 6 times. This thing will become a firing madman, like, and especially with the mods on it, you'll just red crit, and we'll get to why in a second. Projectile speed, this is the best one in my opinion. I'd rather have for the projectile speed. I hate the other two. High ground for the final evolution. Increase base critical chance by 25% of current status chance up to 35. This will allow you to red crit, and going into the build, I'll show you why. Primary Crux, the only reason. On weak point hit, gain 30% status chance and 6% ammo efficiency for 10 seconds, stacks up to 10 times. Now, yes, the 60% ammo efficiency is stellar, but 300% status chance is even better, and this thing will consistently red crit once you get enough weak point hits. Other than that, you've got your Galvanized Aptitude, which you gain the 40% direct damage per status type affecting the target. And since you're basically doing a minimum of 13 for the most part, this thing does a ton of damage. Not to mention, you also have your critical delay, vital sense. We're running heat viral, so we have extra statuses. For the Riven, you don't need a Riven. You could put Shred here, a Bane mod. Uh, Truthfully, this is just a flex slot. Put whatever you want in here. Truthfully, if you don't have a Riven, I would highly recommend you get a Riven, but you don't need it. On to the next one, Epitaph Prime. Epitaph Prime. This one is cold corrosive. I know it says heat. I am waiting for Techrot Encore to come out so I can get Omnia Forma, so I don't have to have two Epitaph Primes anymore or just in general, to have a different set of elements. So once Techrot Encore comes out, this is just going to be cold, and then I'll have cold corrosive. Moving on to the melee weapon, this is just Koumei's signature weapon with melee influence. Amanata Pressure, because this thing is great in my opinion. Not to mention, on top of the unique trait, just this thing, if you can roll all 6 blessings at once, this thing will just, even in general, this thing will tear things up. But damn, do I love all these buffs on it. And it's just electricity, just for melee influence. And it, even just as electricity, you'll still be able to just delete things. Moving on to the companion, we are not using a Kubro to get the rest of the mecha set. Like I said, I only use that for lower end content. Once I start going into level cap, I do switch to Brief Respite. Probably should just stay at Brief Respite, but I do love the Mecha Empowered set a lot. We are going to use the Diriga for the obvious electricity and whatnot. In case Bunraku doesn't proc electricity, this is here to keep your Archon shards going, because this is still considered an ability and will still proc Archon stretch for you. Tenacious Bond for the extra final critical damage. Momentous Bond to help reduce companion recovery, which you will always proc this. Manifold Bond, when killing enemies with 3 or more status effects, reduce ability cooldown by 3 seconds. This is always proccing, because you have always more than 3 status effects on an enemy just by casting your 4. On top of that, Mystic Bond, after your companion uses an ability with cooldowns 5 times, you may cast an ability without expending energy. This is also proccing, because this is proccing, which is allowing it to constantly use Arc Coil. It's so good. Once this gets going, you can just start casting abilities for free, no problem. And then we also have Duplex Bond to give you extra energy orbs just in case something goes terribly wrong and Mystic Bond decides not proc all the time. It's just here to cover your bases, essentially, on top of Archon stretch. The Vulklok is nothing of interest, just your normal not high fire rate, just your normal build, critical delay, vial sense, vial acceleration. It's with electricity because I just wanted to constantly use electricity. And for the Riven, this could be Prime Shred. I would highly suggest you do get a Riven because this thing can absolutely destroy things when it does. So, moving on to the Simulacrum Test, I want to preface this before we get started, is that until you're able to build things up with your 2 and Molt Augmented, it's going to look pathetic. But the amount of damage you're receiving with Galvanized Shot on top of the amount of status effects you're doing, normally enemies will die. A lot. So I'm going to do the regular Orokin battle group. And we're going to come in here, we're going to activate our 1, pop the 4, and as you can see, they are just filled with status effects. And if we look up top here, we have all 13 stacks of Arcane Impetus. And if you keep watching, every time one of your status effects ticks, it refreshes the duration. And anytime you activate Breach Surge, you refresh the duration. I know this is slow, but once you start building up your strength and whatnot, this will just start deleting enemies. I'm going to clear this up real quick. Basically, you're going to have to build it up in order to get Breach Surge to get a high enough critical damage multiplier to start not nuking, but start doing a lot of damage. Now I'm going to show off the Dera Vandal. That is the Epitaph. We're going to do this, activate the 4, and you can just sit here. And as you build up primary crux, you're going to start consistently red critting. And delete enemies with ease. And to show you without your 4, I'm going to switch this, activate this. And as you can see, even without your 4, this thing absolutely deshreds. All right. That is it for the build. I hope you guys did enjoy it. Next, we're going to do the survival demo, where you can see it actually in a mission. I hope, like I said, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.